One of the things I thought I'd like to do in this series is to feature some of the roving traders we have on our waterways. There are a vast array of traders, from fuel boats to artists to performers to cafes, food and alcohol providers, fender makers, jewellery designers, blacksmiths. The list goes on and on. First trader I'd like to feature is a viewer who happens to be moored close by in Stourport Basin during this current lockdown. The current might just give you a clue as to what this guy might actually do.
Good, thank you very much. Yeah. Not such a bad day for it.
I've got to admit, I don't really feel particularly comfortable about installing my own solar panels. I don't know an awful lot about electrics, so that's why I've enlisted the help of an expert. This is Dell from Neilson Boats, and you don't just do boat electrics, do you, Dell? What other things do you do?
Well, I mainly specialise in electrics, but I do a lot of diesel fuel cleaning, as diesel bugs are a big problem on the canals at the moment. Also service engines, do a lot of servicing engines, and general supplies for boats basically on the canal. I'm a roving trader, so I travel the canals, and I also work from a van, so I'm nationwide, so yeah.
Right. Okay, so what's the plan of action for today then?
Right, the plan of action today is to wire your solar panels up and get your batteries charging. We're going to start with running a conduit across the roof of the boat, run the cable then down into the regulator, and then we'll take the cables from the regulator to the batteries.
Alright, brilliant. Well, let's get started.
Because the panels are in series, we've got an open circuit voltage of about 80 volts, which if you've got heart problems, you can actually kill yourself, so always be careful with solar panels. It's DC voltage as well, which gives a worse electric shock than AC voltage. So yeah, a lot of people think that just because it's solar panels, they're not dangerous, but they are very dangerous.
I'm glad you did that and not me.
I hope it's in the right place. Very important to put paint over the steel to stop it from rusting, like so.
Dell had chosen a much better route for feeding the cables into the boat than I was going to choose.
A good unit, mine. I haven't done them before. They're a heavy unit. And you can usually tell if they're good or not because they got the amount of metal they got in the heatsink, and that's got a lot of metal in the heatsink. So.
He's adding conduit from the hole in the roof to the charge controller. So what are you sealing the roof with then, Dell?
I always use a window bonding glue. The one I prefer, which is a well-known one, is Tiger Seal.
Right.
And basically, you can use silicone, but in my experience, it will break down over time, and you'll be sat on your boat in a rainy day, and all of a sudden you'll hear flip flop, flip flop. Voila!
He's now attached the conduit and the roof box to the roof. The cables go inside and are sealed with more window bonding glue. If I'd been doing it, I would have sealed around the hole, but I doubt whether I would have thought of filling the box with sealant. So is that a switch you're putting in there then, Dell?
Yeah, this is the isolator between the batteries and the regulator, and basically it isolates the charge current into the batteries in the event if you would like to work on the batteries or change your batteries basically. Otherwise you'll have power coming into the batteries. So
Right, okay. Dell has drilled through the existing engine bay conduit into the boat and feeds the solar cable to the battery bank. It's important to have a fuse between the batteries and the controller. He then places the battery thermometer into position. The thermometer cable wasn't long enough to reach the battery bank, so Dell has extended the wire. Next, he heat seals the battery terminals. This is a much better method than just using electrical tape. And finally, attaches the solar cables to the batteries. Here we go for the big switch on.
right, so we're charging now. The panels are creating 43 volts, 11 watts, and then the controller is then converting that into a charging voltage. The batteries are sitting at 12.5 volts. That again. And they're then converting that to 0.8 amps. Basically it's not very sunny outside at the moment, so we're not getting much in, and the load, which is the load for a light or whatever, is switched off at the moment. If you want to change that, we can go to the load parameters and change the load settings, and we can change that so that it will switch on as soon as the panels stop charging, i.e. for a security light or something like that. And you can also change it through a timer, or you can set it manually on and off via the buttons. And then we're on to the setup, and we can then go across, and our battery system voltage is set on automatic. Our battery type is sealed lead acid, which we've got sealed lead acid batteries. We've got 3 110 AH batteries, so we've set the capacity to 330, and the address for the communications for the regulator is set to address 1, and that's basically used if you've got multiple regulators, and then just index across just to adjust it. So which you don't need to do that because it's all set up at the moment. So just leave it at 12 volts, and that's that done.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah, terrific. I'll get the makeup lady to come down.
Yeah,
and
where
do
is
it,
she? Where's the makeup lady? Get in there, hair.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's been a few days, Dell, since you installed my solar panels, and I've got to say I'm absolutely delighted. Not just with the performance they're giving, but with the professionalism of the installation. You know, I'm really chuffed. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. It's brilliant. And I noticed the other day you were doing some welding on your boat. Is that something that you take on as well, or
yeah,
what are the...
Yeah, I used to work for an engineering company for 8 years.
Right.
I was in charge of the electrical division in that company. But when there wasn't much electrical work about, I used to go and see the welders, and always happy to learn a new trade, and they kind of took me under their wing and showed me how to weld and the dynamics of engineering and how to basically build stuff, and yeah, really took it on.
Yeah. Multi-skilled you are then,
eh? Yeah. I was I was a service engineer, so I was working all over the world. So if I got to a job and it only had one trade, and it was something else that was wrong, and it wasn't my trade, we had to fly somebody else out. So basically, I had to be taught to kind of do everything.
Yeah.
So, It's worked well for me in the time since.
Yeah, so that's good to know, and so that people can get in touch, I'll put a link in the description box below. And like I say, I'm just really, really grateful for the fantastic job you've done. So, good stuff. Cheers, mate.
Great, thanks very much, I appreciate it.
Okay, good stuff.
Cheers.
Honestly, if you need work done on your boat, get in touch with Dell. He is such a nice bloke and really knows his stuff. Have a look at his YouTube channel too. All the details are in the description box below. In a future episode, I'll tell you why I chose Renogy solar panels and charge controller and explain the pros and cons of the system and the supplier.